It was supposed to be another one of those feel-good meetings. Safety culture refresh, they called it. Mandatory, scripted, useless. I sat in the back with my eyes on the radar tracking screen. Most of the guys half listened while sipping vending machine coffee. That's when I saw it. The response delay wasn't long, maybe a second and a half, but long enough to throw off sync between the east and north runways. I flagged the module. Sure enough, the system hadn't kicked into its automatic failover like it should have. A misfire on the alert trigger. I pulled the logs, cross-checked the routing paths, and right there it was. A sloppy patch pushed to the private runway scheduling app the week before. Someone had screwed up the handler priorities, one overlapping landing request at the wrong time, and the whole radar panel could black out. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I documented everything. Logs, screenshots. I wrote a full memo. Straightforward, no drama. Just the facts and a clear mitigation plan. Then I flagged it to Trent, my supervisor. He skimmed the report like it was a lunch menu. Then he leaned back in his chair and said, "Yeah, that's more of an ops thing. Your team's focus is morale. We're not here to scare the pilots." I stared at him. "This isn't about morale. This is a radar blackout." He waved a hand. "Let ops handle it." You know how it is. Too many cooks. I'd heard that line before, a dozen times. So I did what I always did. Backed up everything. Uploaded the full log chain. Tucked it into a folder and labeled it exactly what it was. Radar failover conflict. Ignored. Then I moved on. 2 days later, the screen blinked out. Just a blip. 4, maybe 5 seconds. But enough. 2 inbound charters had to realign on manual vectoring. Pilots called it in. Rattled but steady. Someone tossed around the word glitch. I spoke up. "This lines up with what I flagged." Nobody blinked. Trent just said, "Let's give IT some time. We don't want to panic people panic." We'd crossed that line already. But I didn't argue. I'd already done my part. I just opened a fresh folder, labeled it Second Strike. The second radar failure gave me all the ammo I needed. I spent that night digging deeper, matching timestamps, pulling error reports, building out a mitigation plan using the backup protocols we were supposed to activate 6 months ago. I packaged it tight, no fluff, just a clean, direct report with every single step laid out. I tagged Trent. I tagged compliance. I even quoted our internal incident policy, the part about documented escalation when core systems are affected. No one replied. Next morning, Trent opens the daily briefing with a joke about how the coffee machine's more reliable than our radar system. Everyone laughs. I don't. Then he looks right at me. He says, "Let's not drag everyone into negativity, especially over what could be a harmless hiccup." No one says a word. I stare at him across the table. I don't say anything either. I knew what was coming. An hour later, HR sends me a calendar invite. Subject line, check in. No details, no context. Just 15 minutes blocked out with a meeting room number. I walk in, and there's Lacey from HR already waiting behind the glass desk. She doesn't ask me to sit, doesn't smile, just says, "Thanks for coming on short notice." Another rep steps in, someone I've never even met before. Fatter folder this time. They open it slowly, like they're pretending it's going to be a real conversation. Lacey starts with, "We've been noticing some tension in the team environment." I blink. "Tension? You've raised several concerns recently in ways that have made others uncomfortable." She continues. "And based on feedback, it seems like you might be struggling with positivity." I didn't laugh, not even a little. The second rep cuts in, soft voice, corporate tone. "We want everyone here to feel aligned with the company values. We think it's possible that this role just isn't the right culture fit." I said nothing. Lacey slides the folder across the table. "This is your transition packet. We've included offboarding support and references for future employment." I flipped it open. No reason listed. Just the word transition stamped in bold at the top. "Is this a firing?" I asked. They both shook their heads. "It's a mutual separation." I stood up. The hell it is. But my badge had already been flagged. My login was revoked before I even made it to my desk. As I walked past the break room, I heard someone say, "There's cake if anyone wants it." Of course there was. Someone always brings cake when they're trying to distract people. I didn't stay for a slice, didn't pack up my things. My name was still on the whiteboard under Core Systems, circled in red. Let them wipe it. I left the building without looking back. Not because I was angry, because I already knew what I was going to do next. I was going to bury them in their own silence. I didn't cry. I went home, shut the front door, and dropped my bag on the floor without even turning on the lights. I sat down, opened my laptop, and started pulling everything. Every log file I'd saved, every time-stamped screenshot, Slack threads, internal comments, maintenance requests that got marked resolved without a single change made. It was all there, all of it. I built folders like a prosecutor prepping for court. The difference this time? I didn't have to stop halfway to write a memo Trent would ignore. I was free. The silence in my apartment was the only good thing about that night. No fake cake celebrations, no glass offices, no backstab smiles. Then my phone buzzed. Sarah. We hadn't talked in a couple weeks. I hadn't even told her yet. I picked up and just said, "Hey." There was a pause, then her voice dropped. I heard. Of course she had. She still knew people there. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "No. Doesn't matter what happened," I told her. Not all at once, just straight down the middle. The radar failures, the reports, the silence, and finally, the culture fit stunt. She didn't interrupt, just listened. Every few minutes, she'd let out a short Jesus or unreal. When I finished, she was quiet for a second. Then she said, "You still have the files?" "All of them." "Good. I want you to walk me through it." "Why?" "I'm at Avionics now. We handle radar scheduling for half the coast. If what you're describing is real, and I know it is, then it's not just a patch issue. That's a whole vulnerability chain. I'm not trying to go nuclear," I said. "Don't need you to. Just facts. Clean walkthrough. No strings. I'll book a room. You talk. We listen." I hesitated. "I'm not dressing up," I told her. "Good," she said. "I don't want polite. I want facts." She hung up. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time in weeks, my hands stopped shaking. I wasn't some burned-out tech left behind with a warning cake and a fake smile. I had proof. And now, someone actually wanted to hear it. I copied everything to a portable drive, gave each file a plain name, organized it by system, traffic, alerts, recovery response, vendor flags. When I was done, I looked at the clock. 2:15 in the morning. Didn't matter. I wasn't going to sleep anyway. I walked into Avionics downtown, HQ with a folder under one arm and a dry erase marker in my back pocket. No laptop, no slides, no resume. The place didn't look like a defense contractor. It looked like a bank. Sleek floors, clean walls, too quiet. Sarah was waiting for me at the front with a badge already printed. She led me down a long hallway, past a couple rooms with conference calls going on, and swiped us into a room marked Briefing Bay. It was exactly what she said. One long glass table, 3 wall-mounted monitors, and a 6-foot whiteboard that stretched from corner to corner. She shut the door. "You ready?" "I'm not here to impress anyone," I said. "Good." They don't hire for charm. I set the folder down and started drawing. First, the radar flow, how the system took traffic from private charter runways and pushed it through a failover logic layer. Then I circled the backup handler path, the one that was misconfigured to prioritize lower-level landing requests, which could crash routing if 2 emergencies hit at once. Sarah took notes fast, barely looked up. Next, I flipped open the folder and pulled out 2 pages, highlighted, dog-eared, vendor contract language. I read it out loud. Clause 12. Liability voided if failover isn't patched within 60 days of alert notice. She stopped writing. They had the notice? Yeah, from the vendor, twice. Last October and again in December. She stood up, didn't say a word, and stepped into the hallway. Left the door open. 2 minutes later, she walked back in with a tall guy in a navy shirt and a woman in a black blazer. No small talk, no intros. Just the guy saying, "Start from the top." So I did. Radar flow, backup logic, contract terms. Slack thread from December where I asked, should this be patched under the fall window or held until spring update? No response. Then I showed the failure logs. First incident, second, time gaps, emergency landings, cross-referenced with system blackout triggers. They didn't ask questions, just watched. I finished with a copy of the memo I wrote, the one I sent Trent. I had it printed, dated, attached with the failover screenshot. March 15th, I said. I never got a reply. The guy, legal, I guessed, leaned back in his chair. If that clause gets pulled in an audit, they're exposed. Sarah looked over. Do you still want facts? He nodded. I want all of it, from server architecture to contract risk. The woman, compliance probably, finally spoke. Would you present this to our board? I closed the folder and looked straight at her. Send me the invite. 3 days later, I was on a red-eye to Dallas, headed for Avionics' main operations hub. They sent me a panel list the night before: legal head, field ops, and a former FAA controller who'd done 20 years in tower coordination. This wasn't a show and tell. They didn't want fluff. They wanted the system. So I walked in carrying the same folder. No slides, no logo, no pitch deck, just data. The conference room looked more like a war room. Floor map on one wall, airfield schematics on another, and a live tower feed cycling on a massive center monitor. The panel sat at the far end of a long table. Already flipping through the printouts Sarah must have sent ahead. No intros, no handshakes. The legal head said, "Walk us through it." So I did. I started with the radar pathing. Showed how incoming runway requests flowed into a central handler, how the failover layer was built to reroute those if one node dropped. Then I showed where the logic broke, the exact spot the handler prioritized secondary traffic over critical priority flags. The FAA guy asked, "What happens in a split-second blackout?" "Manual override," I said, "but only if they catch it fast." With 2 incoming landings, there's no margin. I laid the vendor alerts on the table, both of them. October and December, bright yellow headers with the "action required" stamped across the top. Then I passed around a hard copy of the memo I sent Trent. First page stapled to a screenshot of the logs. Time-stamped. Ignored. The legal head flipped through the memo and stopped halfway. She narrowed her eyes and said, "This puts their whole airfield contract in violation." The room went dead quiet. The COO leaned forward. He hadn't said a word the whole time. "Can we audit it without their help?" Sarah, sitting behind me, didn't even look up. She already mapped it all. I pushed over a separate folder: audit grid, recovery flowchart, risk matrix by runway. FAA guy nodded. "You didn't just document failure, you documented exposure." "Exactly," I said. The COO tapped the table. "This is more than a patch fix. This is strategic leverage." Then they asked the question I knew was coming. "Would you help us document everything for acquisition prep?" I didn't even pause. "I've already started." 2 days after Dallas, I got a text from a former coworker. One sentence: "You guys flipped the switch, huh?" I didn't answer, but I knew exactly what he meant. Back at the old company, their main charter client, that mid-sized private airline that ran at least 4 landings a day through their east runway, went dead quiet. No ticket logs, no call-ins, just a full blackout. Trent tried to play it cool, told the team, "They're just reevaluating their vendor needs. Normal end-of-quarter stuff." But he looked like hell, pale, sweating through a polo shirt that still had the tagline stitched into the sleeve: "Safety first, always." Then the supplier pulled out. They sent a formal notice, 2 paragraphs, very clean, very polished, but one phrase jumped out like a bullet to the spine. "Due to ongoing, unaddressed safety exposure within the current radar coordination layer." That wasn't engineer talk. That was legal talk. I wasn't in the building, but people told me Trent snapped, called an emergency meeting, made the whole company cram into the all-hands room. No slides, no structure. Just him standing in front of the flat screen like he was hosting a TED Talk nobody asked for. He said phrases like "realignment moment" and "external misunderstandings." Tried to sell it as a transition, not a collapse. Then he said the part that mattered. "Some people thrive on stirring up fear. That's not who we are." He didn't say my name, didn't have to. But here's what he didn't know. The damage was already inside. A junior tech, kid named Brian, maybe a year out of college, had been doing cleanup on the server backlog. He found something buried deep in the report archive. My memo. The original one. Radar failover conflict. Labeled, time-stamped, backed up 3 times. He read it, highlighted 3 lines in yellow, printed it, folded it twice, stuck it into his jacket. Nobody noticed. But someone would. Because once the clients stop calling and the vendors start ghosting, it's not just a systems issue anymore. It's a trust issue. And trust, once it breaks, doesn't patch. It spreads. At Avionics, I barely had time to look up. I was buried in prep. Transition files, cross-system maps, vendor path audits, legal-ready memos for every component touched by that misconfigured handler. The acquisition plan was locked in, tight, quiet, focused on system integrity and client retention. Every move designed to look clean from the outside, even if the guts were still smoldering. That morning, I was building out the continuity doc for the board when Sarah swung by my desk, phone in hand. She didn't say anything, just showed me the screen. An internal doc from the old company had leaked, no watermark, just bad access control. Consultant transition overview. Halfway down the list, my name, no title, no explanation, just a label. Radar systems transition, external consultant, no return required. Avionics staff saw it first. Then it hit Slack. Someone posted a screenshot with one line under it. And you fired her. The thread exploded. Replies, question marks, people tagging each other. No one believed it at first. Then the message history got pulled. Then the memo I wrote, the original one, started circulating again. Highlighted, annotated, cited. Nobody said my name out loud. They didn't have to. By midday, Trent disappeared into his office and stayed there. Door shut, blinds drawn. One of my old teammates messaged Sarah just one line. He's not talking. The new IT lead at Avionics sent me a DM. It's public now. Everyone knows what you did. Nice work, I stayed quiet. Didn't post, didn't reply. Just kept working. I reviewed every mitigation doc, scrubbed the old naming conventions, aligned the patch procedures for their compliance guy. We were in the final stretch now. No one wanted celebration. They wanted clean execution. At one point, I stood up, walked over to the whiteboard, and crossed off the last unchecked box. Final vendor gap confirmed. Sarah looked up from her desk. Didn't say anything. Then my screen blinked. New message. Sarah, all green. I typed back, same. No one clapped. No one said, great job. We didn't need to. They could keep their cake. The old boardroom still smelled like air freshener and carpet glue. Same bland chairs. Same frosted glass door. I hadn't been in there since they told me I wasn't a culture fit. This time, I walked in with the Avionics executive team. Trent was already seated. Tan, smug, collared shirt unbuttoned just enough to say, I'm fine, everything's fine. He smiled when we entered, lazy, dismissive, like he thought he still had the upper hand. That smile evaporated the second I sat down across from him and opened my folder. He didn't say my name, of course not, but he started talking fast. We view this as a moment of realignment, he said, aiming it toward Avionics' COO. Some temporary turbulence, miscommunication between departments, but we've always prioritized system safety. I didn't look at him. I slid a printed memo across the table. Read the date. He glanced down. His eyes froze. March 15th, he said, voice tight. Last year, I said. Then I slid two more across. Same issue, same risk, same silence. He stammered. We were triaging. Multiple tickets were open. We couldn't respond to everything in real time. I didn't answer. Behind me, Sarah stayed still, not a word. One of the Avionics execs leaned in. This is your signature, correct? Trent nodded slowly. Then you received these, the exec said. The room was dead quiet. The founder, a man who hadn't spoken since we walked in, leaned forward, fingers interlaced. He looked at Trent like someone studying rot. You ignored her, he said, flat, cold, not a question. Trent's face twitched. His jaw shifted like he wanted to argue but couldn't find the angle. He didn't speak again. The founder turned to our side of the table. You've reviewed the terms? Avionics' legal head nodded. We're ready to proceed. The founder gave a single nod. We accept the offer. That was it. No handshake, no applause. Just the end. Trent sat frozen while papers were passed around, while they finalized the terms, while signatures hit the dotted lines he used to control. When it was done, I stood, packed my folder, didn't look at him again. He'd already seen everything he needed to. Monday morning, the confirmation hit my inbox at 8:03 a.m. Subject, acquisition finalized. Just like that, it was done. Avionics now owned everything. The contracts, the systems, the fallout. My access was restored before I even finished my coffee. Same login, same credentials, different rules. I was already back in the system when Trent got walked out. I saw it from the far corner of the floor, him carrying a small cardboard box with a framed photo sticking out the top. One of those staged family beach shots. Probably fake. He didn't make a scene, didn't fight it. Just looked around once, toward the glass offices. No one waved goodbye. I didn't either. I was too busy fixing the mess he left behind. The first 2 hours, I did nothing but stabilize alert sequencing, rebuilt the auto handler logic, reset the escalation flags that had been disabled for simplicity. The new team listened. No interruptions, no pushback. Just, what do you need next? What already exists? How fast can we implement it? I didn't give a speech. I didn't post some self-congratulatory thread on LinkedIn. I just opened a new folder, named it Postmortem Recovery Protocol. Then I clicked into the first doc and typed, line 1. This didn't fail because of code. It failed because someone refused to listen.